morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, good morning. Welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. Just me again today, so please don't turn it off just because I said that. Just a quick reminder, it is still Disability Insurance Awareness Month on the should have been last week's show, I believe. I talked quite a bit about that, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that today, just kind of that reminder that that's what it is. The other thing I do want to announce, I did set a date. I think I talked about it on the last, maybe even the last two shows, that I'm going to do what I'm calling Medicare 201. So some of the stuff that I'll talk about on here, I'll talk in generalities. I don't mention the company names, and that's the same when I'm doing my Welcome to Medicare 101 workshops. Those are purely neutral. I may kind of try to influence one way or the other. Most agents, we kind of tend to feeling that the Medicare supplement might be the better route, or is the better route for most people. But that doesn't mean that some people still want to go with the Medicare Advantage and get the extra benefits that come with that. So I'm not going to beat too much on those right now what the difference is. But in that Medicare 201, I will get into the nitty-gritty why I'm recommending certain people, without a doubt, get a Medicare supplement. And then there's other ones I'll say, without a doubt, they need to do a Medicare Advantage. And so it goes both ways. You'll find you'll get the most balanced approach from agents that do have the attitude. I've been listening to or watching some YouTubes on a young man that just does the general information content videos about Medicare in general. And he's done a couple, why a Med Supplement, why a Med Advantage. And actually was really moving, I guess a good way to put it. He did one recently where he took the costs that his mother incurred the last 10 months of her life when she lost her battle to cancer. And he went over basically the examples of if she had a Medicare Advantage, this is the bill she would have had. If she had a Medicare supplement, which was the bills that she had, she did have a Medicare supplement. So it still wasn't cheap. There still were some expenses there, but her Medicare plans between her Medicare supplement and her Medicare pretty much covered everything. He did not get into detail about the Part D. And again, one of the reasons not doing that is it would have been fairly consistent on the costs of any medication she had. Would have still been maybe a little bit less on a Medicare Advantage versus a standalone drug plan, but there probably wasn't much difference there, other than maybe she had to hit the deductible for the Part D because it was a standalone plan, which you generally don't have with a Medicare Advantage plan. But what I want to kind of get in today, we talked about cancer plans and hospital indemnity plans, and that's what a lot of times, especially when I'm working with someone who is turning 65, and they're really weighing the costs of, well, if I get a Medicare supplement, it's probably going to run me about $120. I'm going to add a drug plan to that. That's another maybe $20. So there's $140. We can kind of round that off to $150 to keep numbers simple. And then if you want a dental and vision plan, a good dental and vision plan, it's going to run around $50. So you can kind of figure if you're going the Medicare supplement route and wanting that extra dental, you're looking at adding about $200 to that Part B premium, which is currently $174.70 for most people. So you can figure you're going to spend about $200 a month to have the coverage, and generally kind of like having the coverage you're used to having now maybe through your employer if you go with the Medicare supplement. Now, the beauty is you can go to any doctor you want. You don't have to worry about prior authorizations. If you're traveling, you can go to an urgent care or even find a local doctor that will take walk-ins because they take Medicare, and your Medicare covers you just fine. With the Medicare Advantage, if you're out of town, it has to truly be an emergency. Now, sometimes, I actually was just in a meeting this week and had a lot of carrier reps there, and one of the things that, a couple of the carriers are talking about, if that state, that's where you are, has your Medicare Advantage plan, if they have the same company and they're in network with them, then you would be in network there also. So they do. You can cross lines and have, routine or urgent care and still have your insurance cover it versus but they always cover an emergency. That's the one thing. I always want to make sure you understand on a Medicare Advantage, you're always covered in an emergency. Any health insurance, if you're out of state and you have an emergency, and I say any health insurance. Now, if you have Medicaid, and I think that's what gets people a lot of times, or they'll decide to move. It's, I can't make it here by myself. I'm going to go move in my sister 2 states away, and they're there for a couple months, and then they get sick and they go to the doctor. And this is not, especially if you don't have Medicare, and you just have your state's Medicaid, as in here we have TennCare. Using TennCare for an example, you go move in with a relative in Florida, and you've been there for a couple months, and you decide something come up, you need to go to the doctor. You go give them your TennCare card, it's not going to do you any good. Medicaid is federal, but it is handled by the state. So if you move to another state, one of the first thing you should do if you move to another state and you're on Medicaid is apply for Medicaid in that state. Usually it's pretty quick. Generally you're going to be, your income is what qualified you, or lack of income, I should say, and you probably will qualify in another state. Tennessee is one of those states that's tough to get Medicaid. So if you have it in Tennessee, you probably would do okay moving to another state. But I have dealt with a few people lately that have left states like California or Illinois because the cost of living is less in Tennessee, which is true. But when you are on the low-income end and you're on Medicaid, you might qualify in the state you moved from and be turned down in Tennessee. So, and if you're listening to this show, you're probably not someone I'm going to reach and warn. But if you've got a relative that's maybe getting ready to move, or you want to move a relative in with you, and they're on Medicaid, there are some things you want to do prior to that move to kind of get them situated, because you don't, and generally people who are on Medicaid are usually there because a lot of them because of a disability or something. So, they may have some chronic health issues that they need treatment regularly. So you got to make sure that insurance is in place. Now, if they have Medicare, it's not a big a deal because, one, it's very easy to get the Medicaid approved in the state if they're already on Medicare, and they do have their Medicare if they need to do their insurance. But, we have what we call dual special needs plans here. Pretty much every state has them. They're a Medicare Advantage plan, and they're geared for people who have Medicaid, and that's how they can get their extra dental benefits, and it'll pay all their health care costs. But again, those are basically state-specific. If you go out of state on those, you're not going to be in network, even though they're, a national company on those. So you got to be careful. Again, they'll cover you in an emergency, but if you move, you need to change your plan right away. So just to kind of keep that in mind for anybody that, I've actually talked to somebody recently that has a brother out of state, but is on one of those kind of plans and would feel a little more comfortable if that brother was living here with them, because they're not getting any younger. So I guess that's as far as I'm going to go on that. But I wanted to get into, like I said, the hospital indemnity plans. Sometimes we'll call them a HIP plan. And the reason I bring them up is when I've got somebody, as I mentioned in the beginning, that's turning 65, and they're weighing those options, those monthly cost options. And the example I gave, and that was basically for a male with a Plan G and a drug plan, average cost on a drug plan, and adding a dental, vision, and hearing plan, or as we call a DVH. So I may switch back and use the vernacular since I've addressed it already. Just get so used to saying it all the time. People, what's a DVH? I'll send it an email because I don't want to have to type out dental, vision, and hearing and do DVH. What's that? And then I tell them, and I go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, if you're adding that $200 cost on with the Medicare supplement, and your main reason for it is that flexibility, that you can go to any doctor, but you're looking at it as like, I'm healthy. I think the last time I went to the doctor was a year and a half ago. I'm not worried about paying extra to have, to go to any doctor I want. And I'd like to have the extra benefits that come with that Advantage plan, like the dental and the vision and hearing benefits and those over-the-counter benefits where I can get vitamins and Band-Aids and pain relievers, Ace Bandage, all those kind of things. There's quite a bit of stuff that you can order through these over-the-counter benefits. And those only come with a Medicare Advantage plan. You don't get those with a Medicare supplement. So there's ways that other ways that a Medicare Advantage can save you money. The downside is that Medicare Advantage has some restrictions. The first one is, of course, we've mentioned, is the network. If you have an HMO, it will only pay for doctors providers that are in the network. A PPO gives you a little more flexibility, and depending on the plan, there's some companies out there that call, you've lost the term now, but it's an open PPO. You can go to any doctor and it will pay them. But you do still have to, when you're meeting with, if you're going to see a doctor and they're not in network, you need to verify that they will accept the plan, because if they won't accept the plan, you still could be on the hook for the entire amount. So that's one of the things with an Advantage plan. You have to worry about the network. I think the biggest one is the prior authorizations issue, in that you need to get a prior authorization to get a surgery, things like MRIs. Some things that the doctor wants to order an MRI for, and the insurance will say that should be able to be covered by an X-ray. An X-ray costs a lot less than an MRI, so they want you to get the X-ray instead of the MRI. You just generally don't run into that issue if you're on original Medicare with a Medigap plan. When you use that route, doctor says, I want an MRI, you just go to the MRI clinic and give them your Medicare card and be on your way. If you have a Medicare Advantage, you're going to have to get a prior authorization to do that. Same thing if your doctor wants to schedule a surgery, whether it's an outpatient or wants to admit you in the hospital for the surgery, or admit you in the hospital for any reason. Even if something happened, you went to the emergency room, the doctors there have to contact the insurance company and get you that prior authorization before they can admit you to the hospital. It's not that they can't treat you. You're in the emergency room, they're going to treat you, but they can't admit you to a room until they get the authorization from the insurance company. And then the third thing with prior authorization that's probably the biggest sticking point is anytime you're in the hospital, if you're in the hospital for at least 3 days and the doctor wants to discharge you from the hospital, but you're not well enough to go home, that you're still going to need to be in a hospital bed, you're still going to need some assistance getting to the restroom, maybe you've got you need to be doing physical therapy 2 times a day, whatever the reason, you need to go into that skilled nursing. And Medicare says you can stay there for 20 days, and Medicare covers it all, and there's no cost on the Medicare Advantage. Well, the Medicare Advantage, same thing. There's no copays for those first 20 days in skilled nursing, but the insurance company's paying. So they want to get you out of there as quickly as possible to save money for them. So sometimes there's a fight between the doctor and the insurance company that you're not ready to go home yet. You need to stay in the skilled nursing. And sometimes people have actually had to leave and go because they just, it's going to be a couple $100 a day or more, and they don't have it. Or they don't see that they can afford that. So they'll go home instead of receiving that treatment. If you're on original Medicare, they're not going to kick you out, in less than 20 days. The doctor says you need to stay there, you'll stay there. So we're already at the break here, and when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk about some general rates for hospital indemnity plan. I ran a couple quotes, and we'll go over those after the break.
Hi, this is Marvin Long, your local Twin Lakes Business Solutions consultant. At Twin Lakes, we understand that every business is unique, which is why we offer customized solutions designed specifically for your needs. Enjoy lightning-fast internet speeds up to 10 gig, along with HD TV and reliable phone systems, all backed by our 24/7 customer service. Let Twin Lakes support your business with the connectivity it deserves. Call us today at 1-800-644-8582 or visit twinlakes.net.
Looking to spruce up your home without breaking the bank? Visit Habitat Restore for incredible deals on furniture, appliances, home decor, and more. Plus, when you shop at Habitat Restore, you're not just getting great deals, you're also supporting your local community. Are you looking to make a meaningful impact? Consider donating to Habitat Restore. Your generosity can make a world of difference. Habitat Restore, open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and located at 560 South Jefferson Avenue in Cookeville.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. Just for the break there, I promised I was going to go over a couple of HIP plans, as we call them, and just kind of give you a couple examples on that. I'm not going to tell you what companies they are, and there's just 2 of the companies I do have abilities to work with. I didn't run more. I figured if I just do is sit here and talk numbers, you weren't going to have, unless you're writing it all down. So the first one I'm going to talk about, you can set how many days you want to receive the hospitalization reimbursement. This plan actually comes also with, you can do a lump sum that, hey, if you're admitted in the hospital, whether it's 1 day or whether it's 10 days, it pays out a lump sum for that. I didn't put that into this quote, but some people like that one. Just They want to have it cover a certain amount. And the thing is, even if it's just one day, it's going to reimburse you that lump sum. So that lump sum may be quite a bit more, or a few $100s more, I should say, than what your copay is for that hospitalization. And that money's yours to do with what you need. And that's one of the beauties of what we call indemnity plans. And that's why the hospitalization plan, we call it a HIP. It's a hospitalization indemnity plan. That's what the letters stand for. An indemnity plan, fancy word for the insurance pays you, not the doctor. Some plans that are available, you can do what they call assign benefits, and that's the way most dental plans work. They're actually indemnity plans also. They're generally going to be a PPO. But sometimes the dentist, they're not in network, and they're not going to file the claim for you, and you have to pay the bill and send it in and get reimbursed that way. And then some dentists will go ahead and submit that bill, and that's what I'm talking about. That's an assignment of benefits. So some of the health plans out there for indemnity plans do have a feature where you can give the provider a card, and they bill the insurance company and get reimbursed their portion of that. And there still could be a balance that you owe on your bill. So be advised that these plans we have that tendency to say, oh, you don't have to worry about your copay for that because you got this plan. You don't have to worry about that deductible because you have this plan. Well, you still have the deductible. You still have the copay. But say you put it on a credit card, you may be able to get the claim back and have the money in your bank before you have to pay the credit card bill. So you pay the doctor bill with the card, then get it reimbursed from the claim on your indemnity plan, and actually never be out the cash. If you're able to kind of delay the payment on it. But the way this plan here is designed, it has a basic part of the plan, and then everything else is kind of an add-on. So the first part of this plan is the so much per day for being in the hospital, and it goes down as low as $100 a day in 3 days. So that's, if you get this plan, that's the minimum. You have to take a minimum for the per day, but maybe like I mentioned, that lump sum, you might want that. And the reason I bring this up, most of your Advantage plans are going to have a per day hospitalization copay, and it's only for the first few days. There's some down and slow. I think we have one that's maybe 4 days, and I think the longest one is 7 days. So what happens is you pay that copay for the days you're in the hospital. Sometimes the hospital will come to you as you're getting ready to be discharged and say, hey, if you pay this all right now, we'll knock $100 off. So sometimes but if you don't have the money, you can tell, I don't have the money, you're going to have to send me a bill, because they're still going to send you home because they're ready to move you out. But you get that bill, you still have that bill that you submit, and you can get the claim from your supplemental plan, your HIP plan, and maybe not have to, and use that money to pay the bill instead of paying the bill first. So as long as you have the bill, the bill doesn't have to be paid for you to be able to submit the claim. You still need to pay the bill eventually, but you don't have to pay the bill, but you have to have the bill to submit for the claim. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, on this plan here, I just did a male. I did it as age 66 because sometimes the other thing is I've got a couple plans out there that people have gone, for whatever reason, have gone to a Medicare Advantage, and then they think, well, maybe I want to go to a Medicare Supplement, and they can't pass the health underwriting now for that Medicare Supplement. So the beauty of several of the hospital indemnity plans I have now, from say kind of ranges from age 64 through age 68, that they're guaranteed issue, get that plan to supplement your Advantage plan. And the reason I bring that up, certain things like diabetes or COPD or recent heart attack, things like that are going to preclude you from being able to switch to a Medicare supplement. You won't be able to pass that health underwriting. And it's the same is generally true on these supplemental plans, these HIP plans. But if you're in that age range, like I said, from 64 to 68, a lot of them are guaranteed issue. Now, what they do on the guaranteed issue, there are going to be some limitations when you first get the plan. So, like, as I mentioned, you just had a heart attack a couple months ago or 6 months ago. So you get the plan, but maybe first 6 months or first 12 months, you have another heart attack that lands you in the hospital. It's not going to reimburse for that because that was the pre-existing condition. But say you're diabetic, and so they're like, okay, you go in the hospital the first 6 months because you have an insulin reaction. You're not covered because you're diabetic. But you randomly have a heart attack. That has now that as long as it's not caused by your diabetes, it's going to be covered. And I say not because you could face that it didn't cover. That's why I'm just kind of putting that disclaimer in there. But using that example, or if you get cancer, it doesn't matter if you were diabetic, or you got it because you're diabetic or have cancer and have a heart attack or develop diabetes. It's not going to preclude you being reimbursed for getting treatment for those things. The big thing is, on your Medicare Advantage plans, they have a maximum out of pocket. Right now, we're averaging $3,900, $4,600. They can go all the way up to $8,550. And if it's a PPO, they can go even higher than that for out-of-network care. So your costs can really add up with that zero premium Advantage plan. So sometimes you got to be careful. The max out-of-pocket's going to be there. The hospital copays are going to be there. Outpatient surgery, and those can range depending on which plan you have from $225 to $350 or $500 even. So that's why way I did this plan that I set up for this person. Like I said, 66, so he can get it guaranteed issue. So, and then saying he's got a plan that's $250 or $300 a day per day for the first 5 days admitted in the hospital. This plan would reimburse $300 per day up to those 6 days, because after the 6 days, you're not being charged the copay. But say you're only there, you are there for 6 days. The insurance is only going to charge you the copay for days 1 through 5. You still get reimbursed for day 6. So that comes in handy because, again, when you go in the hospital, there's other expenses that come up besides being in the hospital. Maybe, a loved one took a day off to be able to be there with you in the hospital, or when it's time for you to go home, they take the day off to move you, things like that. And you can help reimburse some of those expenses because you got reimbursed from this other plan. For this individual, 66-year-old male, I did both the ones I did quotes on it. I used a 66-year-old male, and of course, if you're a 66-year-old female, your rates will be less. But for 6 days, it would be $21.31. That's just for the hospitalization. Generally, we kind of add, there's other things that have high copays, like I mentioned, the emergency room, the ambulance, the skilled nursing. So there's some things that can come in handy for that. So like this plan, I went ahead and I realized I didn't do the math. You'll understand here when I get done. So for 6 days at $300 per day is $21.31, and then what it pays out for the ambulance is $3.94 is added to that. It'll pay $50 if you go. No, I think it's more than that. I'm sorry, I don't have the brochure on this one now. But for urgent care, it'll reimburse for going to the urgent care, because you're usually going to have, depending on the plan, fairly, not too real high, but fairly high. That's what I said. Yeah, I think it is 50, because you can have up to a $50 copay. Some of them even 65 if you go to an urgent care versus going to the emergency room. That adds $4.19 to the total. Now, I did put on here, that's what I said, this is where I didn't do the math, is I put a $10,000 cancer benefit on here. That's a lump sum. If you're diagnosed with cancer, it would pay out that $10,000. That adds $29.33 to the bill. So I'll be able to kind of round that down a little bit, I think, here. And then we have outpatient therapy and chiropractic services, and that would reimburse $50 per day up to 30 days is $633. And yeah, that's a calendar year maximum. So if you got the plan next month and you used your 30 days, that would reset again on January. So whenever it says calendar year max, those things reset on the 1st of January, not on the anniversary of your plan. On the other one, it would pay $100 per day, while if you're admitted into a skilled nursing facility. And one of the reasons I go with a lower amount on this one, there's some plans that let you split it. So it's like the first 20 days, and then others it's just days, or day 0 to 120, or from day, or 150, I should say, or day 21 to 100. It's 100, I'm sorry, not 150, because you don't have a copay for those first 20 days. This one here doesn't split that out, so I go a little bit lower on the reimbursement, because even if you're there for 2 days, it will pay for those 2 days, but you didn't have a copay for those days. So if you spend more than 20 days, your copays could be more than your daily reimbursement, but you've been reimbursed, a couple thousand already for the 20 days you were in there. So it should cover those first few days of copays without a problem. And then outpatient surgery, I went ahead and put it at the $500, because most plans are getting higher than $250 now. Because in this plan, the options was $250 or $500. So if you're not worried about it covering the whole thing, but you want something there just in case, you kind of split the cost in half. But for $500 on to reimburse for $500 of outpatient costs is $1,744 a month. So that brings the total on this plan to $89.80. So you could take that $29 off if you didn't do the cancer part, so you would be looking basically at $60. And that's why I say with this one here with $89, and we were looking at about $200 to do a Plan G, a drug plan, and a DVA plan. So that was about $200. We're less than half of that cost. The other beauty of these indemnity plans, they don't go up each year because you're another year older. Your Medicare Supplement plans are going to go up as you get older. So it does cost-wise, saves you quite a bit, and it makes sense to go ahead and get it. The younger you get it, the less it's going to cost. And then you have that 64 to 68 guaranteed issue. The other plan I brought up, what it does is if you're admitted in the hospital, it's automatic $250 reimbursement, and then it'll pay $150 per day that you're in the hospital up to 31 days. So again, if you go past the days that you have copays for, it would also reimburse for that. If you just do a doctor visit, it does reimburse $50 for just a routine doctor visit. You can use that twice in a year. Also, if you go for preventive visit, the doctor, it actually reimburses. It's $50 for that, and that's usually covered by your insurance. Medicare or Medicare Advantage usually will cover that preventive visit without a copay, but you can still get a reimbursement for that copay because they want to encourage you to get those wellness checks. And then $50 for x-ray, there's 2 per year on that, $50 on lab tests, 2 per year. So if you go like every 6 months to the doctor to have lab work and get refills that maybe you have to pay for the labs, this will reimburse you for that. If you go to the emergency room, this one's not real generous, but it does reimburse $50, so it at least covers part of that emergency room cost. So that's just, those are a couple basic plans that I wanted to make sure you were aware of as we talk about the HIT plans that can help you reimburse those copay costs that you have with an Advantage plan. So even like I said, if you've already got an Advantage plan, and especially if you haven't turned 69 yet, you might be worried that you might not qualify. We can get a guaranteed issue plan on these, even if that doesn't change the premium. Like life insurance, a lot of times you have a higher premium because it went to guaranteed issue. These plans, the rate is the rate of the plan. It's just some of them you're able to get guaranteed issue. So it looks like I'm running out of time here. So just a reminder, InsuranceMatchmaking.com. That's the website. Oh, and I mentioned I don't think I gave you the date in the beginning. On June 20th, 6/20 is going to be it's in June. I'm pretty sure it's the 20th. I should have looked at it again. But it'll be 2 o'clock. We are going to do that Medicare 201. So if you're interested in doing that, get a hold of our office. You can go online, send in a request. We are limited to 12 individuals to attend. So if we do get a bit higher response, then we'll adjust and maybe schedule another. But we basically only can fit 12 people in the training area. So until then, see you on the radio.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.